The emergency alarm blared through the halls of Earth Defense Fleet headquarters. Commander Jack Reed looked up from his desk, his coffee mug frozen halfway to his lips. The red lights pulsed in sync with the alarm, casting an eerie glow across his office. "All senior officers report to Command Center immediately," the automated voice announced over the speakers. Reed stood up quickly, straightening his uniform. Something big was happening. In his 15 years of service, the emergency system had only been activated twice, once during the Proxima Centauri meteor shower that had threatened Earth's orbital stations, and once during a training exercise. This was no exercise. The command center buzzed with tension when Reed arrived. Screens displayed star maps and fleet positions. Officers hurried between stations, their faces tight with worry. Admiral Thomas stood at the central platform, his weathered face grim. "Attention," Thomas called, and the room fell silent. 1 hour ago, the Void Empire issued a galaxy-wide broadcast. They have declared war on humanity. Murmurs erupted across the room. The Void Empire, the most powerful civilization in the known galaxy, had always kept a cool but peaceful relationship with Earth and its colonies. "They claim we attacked 3 of their border colonies without warning," Thomas continued. "They have shown footage of Earth ships firing on civilian targets." Reed frowned. The Earth Defense Fleet had strict rules about engagement. No captain would attack civilians, much less those of the Void Empire. "Sir," Reed spoke up, "do we have confirmation of any such attacks by our vessels?" Admiral Thomas shook his head. "No, Commander. According to our records, no Earth ships were even in those sectors." "Then it's clearly a mistake or a trick," said a voice from the back of the room. Intelligence Officer Anna Miller stepped forward, her dark eyes sharp and focused. "We should demand they share their evidence for proper analysis." "They already have," Thomas replied, gesturing to a screen. This footage was broadcast across all channels. The screen showed Earth defense ships firing on what looked like civilian structures. The destruction was complete and merciless. Reed studied the images carefully. Something didn't feel right, but he couldn't put his finger on it. "All fleets are to prepare for defensive positions," Thomas ordered. "The Void Empire has the strongest military force in the galaxy. If they're coming for us, we need to be ready." The meeting continued with tactical discussions, fleet deployments, and emergency protocols. When it ended, Reed found Miller standing near the exit, still staring at the frozen images of the attack. "You don't believe it either," she said as he approached. "It wasn't a question." "Those are definitely our ships," Reed answered. "But something feels off." Miller nodded. "I've already started analyzing the footage. Can you meet me in my office in an hour?" Miller's office was nothing like Reed's orderly space. Screens covered the walls, displaying data streams, news feeds, and communications intercepts. A model of the galaxy floated as a hologram in the center of the room, with Earth and the Void Empire territories highlighted in different colors. "Look at this," Miller said without greeting. She pointed to a screen showing the attack footage. "Watch the shadows on the civilian buildings as our ships fire." Reed looked closely. At first, he saw nothing unusual. "Now watch again at half speed." Miller adjusted the playback. This time, Reed caught it. The shadows didn't match the direction of the weapons fire. "The light sources don't align," he said. "Exactly, and there's more." Miller typed rapidly, bringing up more details. "The ship formations are textbook Earth defense patterns, but they're too perfect. Our captains always adjust based on local conditions. And the destroyed buildings? They're old structures. According to our intelligence, those colonies upgraded their architecture 3 years ago." Reed felt a chill. "So someone created fake footage to make it look like we attacked them. But why would the Void Empire fake an attack to start a war? They could win without tricks?" Miller asked. "They've always been calculating. This doesn't make sense." Reed paced the small office. "We need to bring this to Admiral Thomas." "Speculation and shadows," Admiral Thomas said dismissively after they presented their findings. "The Void Empire has issued an ultimatum. We have 72 hours to surrender our outer colonies or face full-scale invasion." "Sir," Reed insisted, "the evidence of tampering is clear. Something else is happening here." Thomas looked tired. Commander, I understand your reluctance to accept this, but we must prepare for war. Even if there are questions about the footage, the Void Empire's invasion fleet is very real. They've already mobilized. Miller stepped forward. Sir, request permission to continue investigating while the fleet prepares. If there's any chance to avoid war. You have 48 hours, Officer Miller, Thomas interrupted. But make no mistake, we will be ready to fight if necessary. That evening, Reed and Miller attended the Diplomatic Corps reception, an ironic event given the day's news. The gathering had been scheduled months earlier to celebrate cooperation between species, but now it served as a tense final meeting before potential conflict. Representatives from neutral worlds clustered together, whispering anxiously. The Void Empire's delegates were notably absent. Commander Reed? A soft voice came from behind him. Reed turned to find a tall, slender figure with pale blue skin. Dren, the representative from the Astra Confederation, a neutral alliance of systems known for their diplomatic skills. Representative Dren, Reed nodded politely. Interesting times for a celebration. Indeed, Dren's large eyes darted around the room before settling back on Reed. May I speak with you and Officer Miller privately? They found a quiet corner, away from the crowd. Dren spoke in a hushed tone. Something is not right about this sudden conflict. The Void Emperor is known for caution and logic. This declaration came too abruptly, and some details don't match their usual protocols. Miller leaned forward. Have you noticed irregularities in the attack footage? The Astra Confederation has experts analyzing it now, Dren confirmed. But there's something else. 3 trading ships from our Confederation visited one of the supposedly destroyed colonies just yesterday, after the alleged attack. They reported normal conditions. Reed and Miller exchanged shocked glances. The colony still exists? Reed asked incredulously. As far as we can tell, yes, Dren replied. I shouldn't be sharing this information, but if war breaks out between humanity and the Void Empire, the entire galaxy will suffer. Miller's mind worked quickly. So either the Void Empire is lying about the attacks or someone is manipulating both sides, Dren finished. Be careful, Commander. Powerful forces are at work here. As Dren moved away to rejoin the other diplomats, Reed and Miller stood in stunned silence. The crowded reception continued around them, diplomats and officers chatting nervously about the coming war. A war that might be based on a lie. We have 48 hours, Reed said quietly. Let's find the truth before the shooting starts. The morning after the reception, Commander Reed entered Miller's office to find her already hard at work. Dark circles under her eyes suggested she hadn't slept. Tell me you have something, Reed said, placing a cup of coffee on her desk. Miller nodded gratefully at the coffee. I've been reviewing all communications from the Void Empire over the past month. There's a pattern of weird gaps and delays that started about 3 weeks ago. She pointed to a chart on one of her screens. See, these spikes? They don't match the Void Empire's usual transmission patterns. Reed studied the chart. We need more help. Someone who really understands communications. I know just the person, Miller said with a small smile. Dan Foster wasn't what Reed expected. The communications specialist wore a rumpled uniform and had a nervous habit of tapping his fingers against his leg. But his eyes lit up when Miller explained their unofficial mission. You're saying someone might be messing with transmissions between us and the Void Empire? Foster asked, suddenly focused. That's actually possible with the right tech. Can you prove it? Reed asked. Foster shrugged. Maybe. I've been working on some new decryption algorithms that might help. Let me see what you've got so far. They converted a small storage room into their makeshift headquarters. Foster brought in his own equipment, setting up additional screens and processors that Reed didn't recognize. This isn't standard Earth defense tech, Reed noted with concern. No, it's better, Foster replied without looking up. I build my own stuff. Don't worry, it's secure. For the next 12 hours, they worked non-stop. Miller gathered intelligence, reports. Reed used his clearance to access fleet movement records, and Foster dove deep into the communication patterns. Got something, Foster finally announced, his eyes wide with excitement. Look at this. He displayed a complex grid of signals. These are normal transmissions from the supposedly destroyed void colonies. According to official reports, these colonies were completely wiped out 4 days ago. But the signals are still active, Miller said, leaning closer. Exactly. Automated. Systems are still running regular diagnostics. Environmental controls are adjusting for day-night cycles, and there are even personal communication signals. These colonies aren't destroyed, they're functioning normally. Reed felt a mix of relief and deeper concern. So the footage was definitely fake. But why would the Void Empire lie about their own colonies being attacked? What if they're not lying? Miller suggested. What if they really believe we attacked them? The three looked at each other as the implications sank in. Someone is playing both sides, Reed concluded grimly. Later that night, Miller received an encrypted message from Dren. It contained only a set of coordinates and a brief note. If you seek truth, look here, come alone, trust no one else. The coordinates pointed to an unmarked space station in neutral territory, at the very edge of charted space. It's a trap, Foster said immediately when Miller showed them the message. Maybe, Reed agreed. But it's also our only lead and we're running out of time. The fleet will be in position for defensive operations in less than 30 hours. We need a ship, Miller said. Reed nodded slowly. I know where to get one. But this will be an unauthorized mission. If we're caught, it's court-martial for all of us. Foster laughed nervously. Well, if we don't stop this war, a court-martial will be the least of our problems. The small scout ship slipped away from Earth's defense perimeter under the cover of a routine patrol shift change. Reed had called in several favors to arrange it, and they would have 6 hours before anyone noticed the ship was missing. Setting. Course for the coordinates, Reed announced from the pilot's seat. Foster, keep scanning for any unusual signals. Miller, you're on weapons, just in case. The journey through hyperspace was tense and quiet. Each of them knew the risks they were taking, risking their careers at best, their lives at worst. When they dropped back into normal space, the station appeared on their scanners, a small, cylindrical structure with minimal external lighting. No markings, no identification beacon, Foster noted. It's running with minimal power, easy to miss if you weren't looking for it. Any signs of life? Reed asked. Miller checked her scanners. Heat signatures suggest maybe 5 or 6 people on board. No weapons activated, but I'm detecting defensive systems in standby mode. Reed carefully maneuvered the scout ship toward Duais, a docking port. Let's find out who's pulling the strings on this puppet show. The station's interior was dimly lit and surprisingly well maintained. The air smelled clean, not stale like abandoned stations. They moved carefully through the corridors, Reed leading with a standard-issue blaster. This way, Miller whispered, following the scanner readings toward the center of the station. They turned a corner and found themselves facing a large door marked with an unfamiliar symbol, a circle with 3 diagonal lines crossing through it. I've seen that before, Foster said, his voice hushed. That's the mark of the Mercantile Guild. The trading organization? Reed asked in surprise. They're more than traders, Miller explained. The guild has interests in everything from mining to weapons manufacturing. They stay neutral in all conflicts, selling to both sides. Foster worked on the door's control panel. After a few tense minutes, he bypassed the security, and the door slid open with a soft hiss. Inside was a command center filled with advanced communication equipment and multiple display screens. Most showed various news feeds from across the galaxy, all reporting on the imminent war between humans and the Void Empire. Look at this, Miller called, standing before a large display showing detailed profiles of high-ranking officials from both Earth and the Void Empire. Reed examined the information. They've been studying us, our communication patterns, decision-making processes, even personal habits of key leaders. Guys, Foster called from another console. I think I found something big. He had accessed a secure database containing thousands of transmission records. These are faked communications, messages that never actually came from their supposed sources. They've been creating fake orders, diplomatic messages, and reports for months. Reed looked over his shoulder at the screen. Can you find the original attack footage? Foster nodded and searched through the files. Finally, he found it. The original studio where the fake attack had been created, complete with detailed 3D models of Earth ships and Void Empire colonies. They fabricated everything, Miller said, her voice tight with anger. They're pushing both sides into a war that neither actually started. A noise from the corridor made them all freeze. Footsteps were approaching. Download everything you can, Reed ordered Foster. We need to get this evidence back to Earth. Foster quickly inserted a data drive and began copying files. This is going to take a few minutes. We don't have a few minutes, Miller warned, drawing her weapon and moving toward the door. Reed joined her, blaster ready. Get that data, Foster. No matter what happens, this evidence needs to reach Admiral Thomas. The footsteps grew louder, and a shadow appeared at the edge of the doorway. Reed and Miller exchanged a look of determination. They had found the truth. Now they just needed to live long enough to share it. Reed aimed his blaster at the doorway as the footsteps grew louder. Miller took position on the other side, her weapon also ready. The door slid open. Dren, the Astra Confederation representative, stepped into the room with hands raised. Please, don't shoot, Dren said calmly. I'm here to help. Reed didn't lower his weapon. You set us up. How did you know we'd be here right now? I've been monitoring this station for weeks, Dren explained. When I saw your ship approach, I came as quickly as possible. We don't have much time. Why should we trust you? Miller demanded. Because I've lost people to the Guild's schemes too, Dren replied, a flash of pain crossing the alien's face. My world was pushed into a pointless civil war 3 years ago. We later discovered the Guild had manipulated both sides. Now they're doing it again on a much larger scale. Foster looked up from the console. The download is at 60%. We need a few more minutes. A loud alarm suddenly blared through the station. They know you're here, Dren warned. We need to leave now. Not without the evidence, Reed insisted. Dren moved to another console and began typing rapidly. I'll try to slow down their security systems, but hurry. Reed joined Foster at the console while Miller kept watch at the door. What exactly are we looking at here, Foster? It's worse than we thought, Foster said, his eyes scanning through files as they downloaded. The Mercantile Guild hasn't just been faking communication about the attacks. They've been manipulating both sides for years. He pointed to a document on the screen. Look at this. A 5-year strategic plan. They've been gradually pushing Earth and the Void Empire toward war, because they stand to make trillions from weapons contracts and reconstruction deals afterward. How could they possibly fake communications well enough to fool both governments? Reed asked. They've been using advanced AI systems, Foster explained, pointing to another file. They feed in years of actual communications from both sides, and the AI learns to perfectly mimic the communication styles of individual leaders and officials. Miller called from the doorway. I hear more people coming. Dren looked up sharply. Guild security, they'll shoot to kill. Download at 90%, Foster reported. Get ready to run, Reed ordered, moving to help Miller cover the door. The sound of running footsteps echoed down the corridor. Foster yanked the data drive from the console. Got it. Let's go. Reed spotted a maintenance shaft at the back of the room. Through here. They squeezed into the narrow tunnel just as armored security guards burst into the command center. Laser fire scorched the wall where Reed had been standing moments before. This way, Dren whispered, leading them through the maze of maintenance passages. My ship is docked on the other side of the station. After several tense minutes of crawling through dusty tunnels, they reached a small hangar where Dren's sleek, blue-tinted ship waited. What about our scout ship? Miller asked as they hurried aboard. We'll have to leave it, Reed decided. Getting this evidence back is more important than one ship. Once aboard, Dren quickly powered up the engines while the others strapped in. The ship detached from the station and accelerated away just as Guild security vessels began to pursue them. Hang on, Dren warned before executing a series of sharp maneuvers. The ship's engines screamed as they pushed to maximum speed, finally leaving their pursuers behind as they jumped to hyperspace. So, the Mercantile Guild created a fake war to profit from it, Miller summarized as they reviewed the evidence during their return journey. They've been planning this for years. And they're really good at it, Foster added, scrolling through more files. Look at these profit projections. They stand to increase their wealth by 400% if Earth and the Void Empire go to war. They've already bought up key weapons manufacturing facilities and resource-rich planets that would be needed for rebuilding afterward. Reed shook his head in disgust. How many lives are they willing to sacrifice for profit? The Guild doesn't see people, only numbers, Dren said quietly. In their boardrooms, deaths are just acceptable losses in pursuit of their goals. We need to get this evidence to Admiral Thomas immediately, Reed said. Foster looked uncomfortable. There's something else you should see. He pulled up another file. According to this, the Guild has agents placed in both Earth and Void Empire leadership, including... He turned the screen so Reed could see it. The commander's face hardened. Admiral Thomas is on their payroll. When they reached Earth space, Reed expected to be arrested immediately. Their unauthorized mission and stolen scout ship would have been discovered hours ago. Instead, they received a priority communication from Earth Defense Headquarters. A face appeared on the view screen that Reed didn't expect to see. Admiral Wilson, the head of Intelligence Division who had been stationed at the Jupiter colony for the past year. Commander Reed, Wilson said, her expression grave but relieved. I'm glad you're alive. Return to headquarters immediately. Use docking bay 7, it's secure. Admiral Wilson? Reed asked in confusion. What's happening? Where's Admiral Thomas? Thomas has been relieved of duty, Wilson replied. We've had suspicions about him for months but lacked proof. His actions following the war declaration confirmed our concerns. She leaned closer to the screen. A small group of us knew something was wrong with the Void Empire's claims. We've been working quietly to investigate, but we had to be careful about who to trust. We have evidence, Reed told her. The Mercantile Guild has been manipulating both sides. Bring it directly to me, Wilson ordered. And Commander, well done. Admiral, Wilson reviewed the evidence in her secure office while Reed, Miller, Foster, and Dren waited anxiously. This confirms everything we suspected, Wilson finally said, looking up from the screens. But we have another problem. The Void Empire's attack fleet has already begun moving. First skirmishes have been reported at our border outposts. They still think we attacked them, Miller realized. And they won't believe us if we simply tell them they've been manipulated, Reed added. Foster had been quiet, studying more of the Guild's files. I think I see a pattern here, he said suddenly. The Guild has been using an adaptive AI system to create their fake communications. If we can identify the unique markers of this system, we could prove the communications are fake. Miller finished his thought. Exactly. Foster nodded. But we'd need to establish direct communication with the Void Empire leadership to show them the evidence. That won't be easy with shooting already started, Wilson noted grimly. Reed straightened his shoulders. Then we need to get to them, before the real war begins. Admiral, I request permission to lead a diplomatic mission into Void territory. Wilson studied him for a long moment. That would be extremely dangerous, Commander. If you're captured, you'll likely be executed as a spy. It's our only chance to stop this war, Reed insisted. Wilson nodded slowly. Very well. I'll arrange a small, fast ship. You'll carry diplomatic markers, but once you cross into Void space, you're on your own. I'm going too, Miller said firmly. Me too, Foster added. You'll need me to explain the technical evidence. Reed looked at his small team. 3 humans, who had discovered a truth that could save billions of lives. Now they just had to convince an alien empire not to destroy them long enough to share that truth. We leave in 6 hours, Reed decided. Let's get ready. The diplomatic vessel glided through space, its white hull marked with the universal symbols of peace and diplomacy. Inside, Reed paced the small bridge while Foster made final adjustments to his equipment. Are you sure this will work? Reed asked, watching Foster connect devices that hadn't existed a day ago. Mostly sure, Foster replied without looking up. I've combined parts from 3 different systems to create this decoder. If the Guild's AI uses the patterns we identified, we should be able to catch and display their manipulations in real time. Miller entered the bridge, her face tense. We just received word from Admiral Wilson. 2 more border outposts have been attacked. Earth's defense fleet has been ordered to engage any void ships that cross the boundary line. Reed checked the navigation display. We're an hour from the neutral meeting point. Let's hope the Void Commander agrees to hear us out before shooting. If they show up at all, Miller added quietly. As they approached the designated coordinates, a small, uninhabited moon orbiting a gas giant in neutral space, sensors detected a ship already waiting. Void Empire vessel identified, the computer announced. Battlecruiser class. Reed swallowed hard. A battlecruiser could destroy their small diplomatic ship with a single weapons burst. They're hailing us, Miller reported, moving to the communications console. A harsh voice came through the speakers. Earth vessel, this is Commander Core of the Void Empire Battlecruiser Vengeance. State your purpose. Reed took a deep breath. Commander Core, this is Commander Jack Reed of Earth. We come under diplomatic protection to share critical information about the attacks that led to this conflict. There was a long pause before Core responded. You claim to have information about your attacks on our colonies? We have proof that neither side attacked the other, Reed replied carefully. Both Earth and the Void Empire have been manipulated by a third party. Another pause. You may dock in our secondary hangar. Any weapons or signs of treachery will result in immediate execution. The transmission cut off. Well, at least they didn't shoot us on sight, Foster said with forced cheerfulness. The Void ship's hangar was massive and dimly lit, filled with armed guards whose gray skin and bright yellow eyes watched the humans, with obvious hostility. Commander Core waited at the center, towering over the humans at nearly 7 feet tall. Unlike his soldiers, his skin had a bluish tint, marking him as part of the Void Empire's ruling class. You have 1 hour to present your evidence, Core stated coldly as they were escorted to a meeting room. The destruction of our colonies demands justice. Once inside the secure room, Foster quickly set up his equipment while Reed explained what they had discovered at the Guild's station. Convenient lies, Core interrupted, his face hard. You claim innocence yet offer no proof except stolen files that could easily be fabricated. That's why we brought this, Foster said, activating his device. This system can identify and decode the Guild's AI manipulation patterns in real time. If they send fake messages while we're here, we can prove they're not genuine. Core looked skeptical. The Mercantile Guild has been a trading partner of the Void Empire for centuries. They have no reason to push us into war, except profit, Miller countered, displaying financial projections from the Guild's own files. They stand to gain enormous wealth from a prolonged conflict between our civilizations. These could be forgeries, Core insisted, though his tone held a hint of uncertainty. Reed decided to try another approach. Commander, you've seen the footage of our ships attacking your colonies. Have you actually spoken with survivors from those attacks? Have you personally verified the destruction? A flicker of doubt crossed Core's face. The reports came through official channels. But have you confirmed them independently? Reed pressed. Before Core could answer, a communications officer rushed into the room. Commander, urgent message from High Command. A holographic display activated showing an older Void official with elaborate facial markings designating high rank. Commander Core, you are ordered to terminate the diplomatic meeting immediately. The humans are stalling while their fleet prepares a major offensive. Execute the Earth representatives and proceed to your assigned attack coordinates. Core straightened, his expression hardening again as he looked at the humans. You speak of manipulation while your fleet prepares to attack? Wait, Foster interrupted, pointing to his device which was now flashing red. This message is fake. Look at the decoder. His screen displayed a complex pattern analysis alongside the transmission. These are the Guild's AI markers we identified. This isn't coming from your High Command. Core hesitated, torn between his orders and the strange evidence before him. Contact your High Command directly, Reed suggested urgently. Use a secure channel your people established before all this began. After a moment of internal struggle, Core nodded to his communications officer. Establish direct link to High Command using Emergency Protocol 3. The minutes that followed were tense as they waited. Finally, a different Void official appeared. On the holographic display, "Commander Core, why have you initiated emergency protocols?" the official asked, looking confused. "Sir, I received orders to execute the Earth diplomats and proceed with the attack, supposedly from High Commander Vex." The official's expression changed to alarm. "I am with High Commander Vex now. He has issued no such orders." Foster's equipment continued to analyze the previous transmission. The fake message was relayed through 3 different communication hubs to mask its origin, but the source was a guild vessel hiding at the edge of the system. Core's yellow eyes widened as the truth began to sink in. "Show me your evidence again, humans." For the next hour, Reed, Miller, and Foster presented everything they had discovered about the guild's deception. They showed the faked attack footage, the communication manipulation patterns, and the financial records proving the guild's motives. As the evidence mounted, Core grew increasingly grim. "If this is true, then our people and yours have been played for fools. And we're about to start killing each other over a lie," Reed added. A sudden explosion rocked the ship, sending them all stumbling. Alarms blared throughout the vessel. "We're under attack!" a Void officer shouted from the doorway. "Earth forces?" Core demanded. "No, Commander. It's a guild enforcement vessel. They've disabled our main engines and are preparing to board." Reed and Core locked eyes, a moment of understanding passing between them. "They're trying to silence us before the truth spreads," Reed said. Core nodded grimly. "Then we must ensure the truth survives." He turned to his officers. "Prepare to repel boarders, and get a message to High Command with everything we've learned." Reed activated his communicator. "Admiral Wilson, this is Reed. The Guild is attacking the Void vessel to prevent our meeting. We need immediate assistance and wide broadcast of the evidence." As the sounds of weapons fire echoed through the ship, humans and Void Empire soldiers prepared to fight side by side for the first time, united by the truth that only humans had discovered, but now both species would defend. The Guild soldiers poured into the Void battlecruiser, their black armor making them look like moving shadows. They carried advanced weapons that fired pulses of blue energy, cutting through the ship's interior defenses. "This way," Core shouted, leading Reed and his team toward the ship's secondary command center. "We need to broadcast the evidence before they can stop us." They ran through the corridors, joined by Void soldiers who formed a protective formation around them. The sound of battle echoed from multiple directions. "Foster, can you transmit our findings from their systems?" Reed asked as they reached the command center. Foster looked at the alien technology with uncertainty. "I'll need help. Their systems are different from ours." A young Void officer stepped forward. "I will assist you." While Foster and the Void technician worked to prepare the broadcast, Miller helped secure the room and Reed joined Core in planning their defense. "The Guild will have sent forces to attack your Earth contacts too," Core warned. "They can't allow anyone to expose their scheme." Reed nodded grimly. "Admiral Wilson knows the risks. She'll have taken precautions." A loud explosion rocked the corridor outside. The Guild forces were getting closer. "How much longer?" Reed called to Foster. "Almost ready," Foster replied, fingers flying over the alien console. "We're linking to both Earth and Void Empire communication networks. If this works, everyone will see the truth at once." The doors to the command center shuddered under heavy impact. The Guild forces were trying to break through. "We need more time," the Void technician said urgently. Core made a quick decision. "I will buy you that time." He turned to his soldiers. "With me." Reed caught Core's arm. "You don't have to sacrifice yourself." The tall alien commander gave what might have been a smile. "This is not sacrifice. This is justice." He handed Reed a small device. "This contains command codes for the ship. If I fall, you will need them." Before Reed could respond, Core led most of his soldiers out through a side passage to flank the attackers. The sounds of fierce fighting filled the air as Reed joined Miller at the barricaded main door. "How are we doing?" "Not great," Miller admitted, checking her weapons charge. "If they break through before the broadcast is ready, The door buckled inward from another explosion. "It's ready!" Foster shouted suddenly. "Broadcasting now!" Screens throughout the command center came to life, showing the evidence they had gathered. The guild's manipulation, the faked footage, the financial records proving their profit motive. The same information was now flooding communication channels across both Earth and Void Empire territories. The main door crashed open. Guild soldiers poured into the room, weapons firing. Reed and Miller returned fire, desperately trying to protect Foster and the transmissions. A blue energy pulse struck Miller in the shoulder, sending her spinning to the floor. Reed pulled her behind cover, continuing to fire with one hand while checking her wound with the other. "I'm okay," Miller gasped, though her face was pale with pain. "Keep the broadcast going." The guild forces pushed forward relentlessly. Reed knew they couldn't hold much longer. Then, just as the situation seemed hopeless, new weapons fire came from behind the guild soldiers. Kor had returned with reinforcements, not just his own soldiers, but a squad of humans in Earth defense uniforms. "Admiral Wilson sent help," a human officer shouted over the noise of battle. "We received your broadcast." Caught between two forces, the guild soldiers began to fall back. Reed joined the counterattack, and soon the command center was secure. Again. "The broadcast is reaching everywhere," Foster reported excitedly. "And look at this. Ships from both our fleets are standing down. They've seen the evidence." On Earth, Admiral Wilson stood in the main command center, watching as the broadcast spread across all channels. Around her, officers stared in shock at the proof of manipulation they had all fallen for. "Send to all fleet commanders," Wilson ordered. "Cease hostilities against Void Empire vessels immediately. Any guild ships are to be detained if possible." Similar orders were being issued throughout the Void Empire's command structure. After centuries of suspicion between the two civilizations, a shared enemy had united them in purpose. 3 days later, Reed stood beside Kor in the grand meeting hall of the Earth Defense Headquarters. Admiral Wilson and the Void Emperor himself sat at the center of a large table, surrounded by officials from both governments. "The Mercantile Guild's leaders have gone into hiding," Wilson reported. "But we've seized many of their assets and facilities. Their scheme has failed. They have manipulated both our peoples for decades," the Void Emperor said, his deep voice resonating through the hall. "Perhaps for centuries. We found evidence of their influence in conflicts dating back hundreds of years." "They underestimated humanity's stubborn pursuit of truth," Kor commented to Reed. "Without your team's determination, this war would have consumed millions of lives." Reed shook his head modestly. "We were just doing our duty." "You did more than duty," the Emperor stated. "You showed wisdom that saved both our civilizations." Admiral Wilson stood and addressed the gathered officials. "Today we sign not just a peace treaty but an alliance. Together we will ensure the Guild can never again profit from manufactured conflict." The document was signed with solemn ceremony, a historic moment that would change the course of galactic politics forever. 1 month later, Reed, Miller, and Foster stood on the observation deck of Earth's orbital station, watching as ships from both Earth and the Void Empire worked side by side to construct a new joint defense platform. "I still can't believe how quickly everything changed," Foster said, his eyes wide with wonder. 1 month ago we were on the brink of war, and now we're building things together." Miller, her arm still in a healing sling, smiled. "People respond to truth when they finally see it. Not just truth," Reed added thoughtfully, "but the willingness to look for it even when everything suggests there's no question to ask." A large ship approached the station, a new design that combined Earth and Void technologies. Its hull bore the symbol of the newly formed Galactic Alliance. "That's our new assignment," Reed told his friends. "The first joint exploration vessel. They want us on board because of our unique investigative abilities." "Exploring instead of fighting," Miller said with satisfaction. "A much better use of resources." As they watched the magnificent ship dock, Reed reflected on how close they had come to destruction. A single lie had nearly sparked a devastating war, but the human drive to question, to investigate, to seek truth beyond appearances had changed everything. Across the galaxy, other species were taking notice. Humans might be younger and less advanced than many races, but they had something special, a stubborn refusal to accept things at face value. It was a quality that had saved not just humanity, but the Void Empire as well. And it was a quality that would soon earn them a unique place in galactic society. The truth seekers, the question askers, the ones who looked beyond the obvious to find what was really happening. The war had been a lie, but thanks to humanity, the truth had prevailed.